Hello guys and gals of the internet, I'm Mr. Michaels of YouTube, Mixer and Twitch TV, and welcome to a very different video for this channel. We are going to do a tier maker video today, and this is going to be episode 1. This is actually probably going to turn into a bit of a series that I do for the channel, simply because there are a lot of things I'm interested in I could probably make tiers out of, say Sonic the Hedgehog, today with the Resident Evil series of games. What else can I do? Sports teams, Formula 1 games, you know, I could do a lot of tiers with certain things in my life. So, I've seen that people do that on Twitter, I've seen people do videos of it, it seems rather fun, and today's the first episode, and it is going to be the Resident Evil game series. Now, I most recently completed the majority of the Resident Evil series, finishing up with Resident Evil Revelations 2 just recently. Now, as of today, the only game that is not back on my YouTube channel is a playthrough of Resident Evil 6. That will be coming with my girlfriend Talmany Games at some point, but I've already covered the game for the channel before when the game came out, and I am planning to go back to it, and I still have experience with it. So Resident Evil 6 will be featured as one of the games in this tier. So now, the most important rule that I will make is that we have to put one game in each tier. Now, one thing I'm going to change from this main tier here is I am actually going to put this as didn't play, because there are a few games in this tier that I actually didn't play. And what we're going to do is we're going to move it up one. We're going to change the color to, say, this green here, and then we're going to change this one to the blue, which will probably be one of the worst games in this series, in my opinion. So they're not didn't play isn't bad, but I didn't play them, and then E is the worst that I have experience with. So we've changed a couple of things there. So yeah, episode 1 of Tier Maker, the Resident Evil game series. Let's get started. Let's get started from left to right, and we'll go across, and we'll place every game in each tier, and I'll explain why I do that. So this one here, I believe, is Resident Evil Dead Aim, which I never played. I don't recognize the gameplay, so I think I'm quite confident for the most part that I haven't played Resident Evil Dead Aim at all. So that's quite simple. It goes in the didn't play section. Now, Resident Evil Resistance is actually the most recent game in the Resident Evil series. It came free with the with Resident Evil 3 Remake. I have played a little bit of Resistance. I've dabbled into a little bit, and it's okay. I think what I jumped into Resident Evil Resistance. I don't like the online, and I don't think it feels as polished as, say, Resident Evil 2 or 3, the remakes. It's got the same graphical engine with the RE engine, but something about the game doesn't feel as polished to me about Resident Evil Resistance's gameplay, and the online was very bad when the game came out. It might have been fixed with patches, but it's a 4-on-1 asymmetrical shooter that I really, admittedly, don't have a lot of experience with, but I don't think I'm going to factor that experience into the game, because that's not fair. But from what I did play of it, it was okay. I like the references with Annette Birkin and William Birkin. Annette Birkin is one of the masterminds, and one of the beasts you control is William, and also with Nikolai and Nemesis. I can't remember the guy's name. I think it's David or something, but one of the masterminds he looked like Albert Wesker. He was a big discount Albert Wesker, and he had Tyrant as the boss. So I like the way it was set up, but something about it just doesn't feel as good as the remake games to me. It has nothing to do with the 4-on-1 asymmetrical gameplay, because I do actually like that, because I've always wanted to play something like Friday the 13th, or what's the other one, Dead by Daylight. I haven't owned them yet, but I'm not really good with asymmetrical shooters. I did play the Predator Hunting Grounds, and that game was just terrible graphically. This game isn't that. This game isn't like Predator Hunting Ground, which just looks like absolute garbage. It runs as well as you would expect for an RE Engine game. The graphics are great. The characters are new, so it's a new introduction to new characters. The Mastermind seems like it would be a fun thing to do, but to me, the online was just not that great, and the game just didn't feel as polished as, say, 2 or 3 make. So that's why it's a D, but it's not a terrible game. I would definitely recommend giving it a shot, but for me, I like what it does, and I think the game probably has potential to grow. You know, Jill was added as a survivor recently. Maybe it's something I'll go back to, and maybe we'll change it, but I just didn't overly dig it, you know what I mean? I think it's something I would play maybe once or twice, but it's certainly not something I would probably play more than a few times. So I think that's why it's a D, really. With RE5, you guys know I absolutely love this game. I'm not really sure if it's for the right reasons, but there are a few things that I can actually understand. I think the one thing about Resident Evil 5 that I can immediately feel is a couple of downgrades. Resident Evil 5 has terrible partner AI. Absolutely terrible, and I know because I did Resident Evil 5 around the time it came out, about 6 months after it came out. I had to play it on my own, and the AI was not great. It wasn't great. It wasn't something that hampered my progress too much, but it is abysmal, to be honest. It's abysmal AI. I think there's something about Revelations 2's AI that makes it slightly worse, but it's still, that's not really, it's still bad. So I would recommend playing this with a friend, but you know, that's the recommended. So really, should it be a decent game with that option in mind, that you can't play on your own because the AI partner is a hindrance? It shouldn't really be made like that. I can see what they were trying to do, not making the co-op person, the AI partner, not overpowered, so you can breeze through the game just using the partner. But it wasn't even remotely competent. So you're pretty much encouraged to play Resident Evil 5 in co-op. Which really wasn't a big deal to me. I love playing co-op with Terminator games anyway, so it wasn't really a big deal to me. I don't think that's a big deal to someone like me who has someone to play with. But I can understand if someone doesn't have anyone to play with and they've got to play this on their own, and the AI partner is garbage. It's not even competent. It's not even that. So I do understand the problems. One thing I will say is that the versus mode on the PS4 version that I experienced was unplayable. The lag is too bad, you can't get a decent shot at anything, and I didn't really understand even any of the modes in it, really. But I did like the Mercenaries mode. So I think with all that being said, it's not an A game. I have to admit, as much as I love the story, it's not an A game. I think it's a B game. I really do. I think Resident Evil 5 is one of those games that gets a lot of flack, kind of unfairly, but then kind of fairly as well. It's more 50-50 for me. I understand the gripes, but I enjoyed what I played, apart from the versus mode, and I had to play it in co-op, but I had someone to play with. So I think Resident Evil 5 is a B or C game, depending on your experience with it. To me, it's a B game. I loved the DLC, Lost in Nightmares in particular. Desperate Escape was alright. So yeah, I think Resident Evil 5 is a B game, but that's my experience. And I think the same for Resident Evil 6. Personally, I don't think it's not any higher than a B game for me. But I think it improves upon Resident Evil 5 in some way. The partner AI, again, is not that competent. It's still kind of stupid. So again, you're kind of encouraged to play co-op with this game. If you've got a friend, you're in for a great time, but if not, I think it might even be worse on your own. It actually might be worse if when you're on your own. I remember DSP playing it when I was actually watching it. His ex-girlfriend, Panalee Games, you might remember, because I was watching her too. She also did a playthrough of Resident Evil 6. She did it by herself, and her experience was just terrible compared to DSP's, who had his friend John Rambo to play with at the time. So again, you're pretty much encouraged to play to play co-op. The Agent Hunt mode was boring as fuck. I enjoyed the other multiplayer offerings though, and the Mercenaries mode on the well, I think it's probably a count for all versions. It's on the PC as well because I played it on the PC recently. I haven't done a playthrough yet, but I've been playing it kind of away from camera, playing the Mercenaries, unlocking all the stuff for Mercenaries for when me and myself and Tom actually get to that mode after our playthrough. And it really is expanded upon Resident Evil 5. So I think it's better than Resident Evil 5, but it's not any better than a B game in my opinion. But I still love the game, but there are a couple of games also that I love more. But Resident Evil 6 for me is something I wouldn't go back to campaign wise. I probably played the Mercenaries for a bit after I unlocked everything. There's probably not much I would do left. But I will say this, I did like the other multiplayer offerings that came with it. The bad news is that was paid DLC at a time where Capcom was locking their stuff on the disc and you had to pay for it. So I think that drops it a couple points as well. So Resident Evil 6 overall is a B game to me. It really is. It's better than Resident Evil 5, but there are games that are better in this particular series. So moving on to Resident Evil 3 Nemesis. This is the original Resident Evil 3. Sadly, I have to put it in didn't play, because I didn't play it, and I regret it. But I have seen a playthrough from Vash, so let's kind of hypothesize here. Where would I put Resident Evil 3 had I played it after watching a playthrough from Vash? I think it's easy. I think it would put it in A. I really do. You know, I think there's multiple or different endings. The paths are varied. There are plenty of times where you can do different choices and it will give you a different ending or a different path in the game, which makes up for the lack of A and B scenarios that weren't in Resident Evil 3 from Resident Evil 2. Does it really improve upon Resident Evil 2? In some ways it does. The dodge mechanic is certainly a nice improvement, but I don't know personally, but I don't know if people would say, well, that takes away this factor and this factor. But I think I would at least go in A for Resident Evil 3, the original. But unfortunately, I didn't play it, so it has to go here. I think it would be better than Resident Evil Dead Age, so let's... Can we not? Can we not? Oh, I guess not, okay. Okay, so I think this is Resident Evil Outbreak Files 1, I think. And again, I didn't play it. I hear they're really good, the Outbreak Files. You know, they're like they're what are they called? You know, different versions of RE2 from the perspective of certain civilians and certain people. That's from what I hear. But unfortunately, I didn't play it, so it has to go there. Resident Evil 4 is easy. It's an S game for sure. Resident Evil 4, there's no debating it. S tier. It transcended really well from the fixed camera angles, the tank controls. It kind of kept that, but made it a more modern and in tune with a lot of games at the time, like 3D transition, you know, all that kind of like Mon control schemes and all sorts of stuff, but it still kept the tank controls in some way and the atmosphere of a Resident Evil game. So I think for all that, in all intents and purposes, it makes it an S game. The transition was great. Leon was, you know, given another story. Leon was a fan favorite for Resident Evil 2, so yeah, Resident Evil 4 is quite simply S tier. It's no doubt about it. Umbrella Corps, I didn't play it, but it doesn't get off that easily because I saw it. I saw people play it. I didn't want it. It's a terrible game. It's a terrible game. You don't get off that easy, Umbrella Corps. I'm sorry. Resident Evil Outbreak Files 2, much like the first game, I didn't play it, so that goes here. Resident Evil Resident Evil 1 Remake. I'm not sure with this one, because it's better in every way than the original Resident Evil 1, depending on what version you played, and we'll get to that in a second. But is it an S game? It's an A. It's A or lower for sure. You know, it's no lower than A. But I'm debating whether it's an A or an S. That's a tough one. I think I'd put it in A. Personally, I think I would, because at the end of the day, like I said, it does make the OG. It's better than the OG in every way. The writing, the frames per second is better, especially on the PlayStation 4 and PC. The graphics are stunning. I don't know. Maybe I would put it as an S. I'm very torn with Resident Evil Remake. I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm very torn. But I think I'll put it. I'll keep it in A, and we'll go through the rest of the games, and I'll see if I change my mind at the end. But right now, we'll put it in A. Resident Evil 2. That's easy. No debates. My favorite game in the series. S tier. Claire Redfield, Sherry Birkin, Leon Kennedy, Ada Wong. Love the characters, love the story, love the fact that there are 4 different scenarios to play. The stories differ in those scenarios as well, so that adds a lot of replayability to it. I just loved everything about Resident Evil 2, the original. Even if I didn't fully beat it, I still loved it. But I don't think I ever beat a B scenario, because at the time I was a little kid. I saw Tyrant in Resident Evil 2 and never played the game again with the B scenarios. That would have probably changed had I had an opportunity to do it now. I would have easily done it, no problem. But at the time, I was little, he scared the shit out of me, and I never beat the game. But I can't devoid any score for Resident Evil 2 for that reason. You just can't. It's my favorite in the series by probably quite a wide margin, actually. So yeah, S tier, top game, no debates. Resident Evil Gaiden, never heard of it. Game Boy Color, I never owned one. My brother did to play Pokemon Blue, but I don't recognize ever owning that game, so I'm gonna assume I didn't play it. The same with here, which I think is Resident Evil Survivor 2. I think. I'm not sure what that's called. I don't recognize the case as a case I ever owned. So yeah, I would put that in didn't play, definitely. I don't recognize the case, so yeah. Resident Evil Revelations, I loved it compared to a lot of people. It's behind Resident Evil Remake, obviously, but it's an A-tier game. It's not less than that. Jill and Chris are back. They get reunited. You know, I ship Chris and Jill, so there's an obvious points for that. But yeah, I don't think it's a real survival horror game. A lot of people say it's not really a survival horror game, it's just the one with monsters. But again, it's just that good. You know, there's a lot of nostalgia for me. I even, do you know what? Resident Evil Revelations, it was a testament to the Nintendo 3DS and what it could handle, because the bosses, even in that version, looked really good, and they looked even better on the PC or the PS4 or the Xbox 360 or whatever you bought it on. The Resident Evil Revelations 1, to me, absolutely great game. Great game, great story, great humor. It didn't really fit a Resident Evil game if you were going to talk about survival horror and fixed cameras and all that. But like I said, after Resident Evil Code Veronica, you would say that the series had kind of, with Resident Evil 4 and how that reinvented the series, we were kind of past that. Which made Resident Evil 4 a really good game, because they went past the tank controls and the fixed cameras, and then yes, the tank controls were still a thing, but they made it work in a more modernized way. And Revelations, whether it's not one of the favorites in the series, it is to me. I remember the trailer that came out for it that was really quite a cool trailer, and it didn't turn out that way, with Chris and Jill aiming their guns at each other, and I was like, oh shit, what is this madness? Now obviously that didn't happen, they changed it, but yeah, Resident Evil Revelations, a great game that I would thoroughly enjoy if I went that too down. I think I played it for a second time on the PC, and I absolutely loved it the first time around, and the second time around. So it's a game I definitely go back to, much like say Resident Evil 2. but not as good as Resident Evil 2 and 4. 2 and 4 I would go back to all the time. Revelations, I would go back a little less than that, but it's still a fantastic game. Resident Evil Operation Raccoon City is difficult because I loved the potential it had when the trailers dropped, and when the game was being showcased and like talked about as you play as the bad guys in the Raccoon City incident, and then there's this story where you play as the special forces, and it just had so much potential, but the gameplay fell flat on its face. The gameplay of this game was terrible. We had to play it on easy mode, and it was just bad. It wasn't the worst though, and that's why it's in D. The multiplayer offerings in this game were redeemable slightly. I think it's a D because of its premise, but the rest of the game just falls flat on its face. And like I said with the Resident Evil, another game that I've forgotten it, but there was Raccoon City actually came out at a time where Capcom was locking Resident Evil 6. I just mentioned it earlier. You know, there was a lot of stuff locked behind it that was already on the disc, a lot behind a paywall in Capcom style that year, and it basically just killed the game off. And then you play the game, and it's bad. It's not Umbrella Corps bad that I didn't want to play it. I did want to play it. Even if it turned out really bad, I just still wanted to play it because the premise was just such a draw to me at the time when the trailers came out. And then you play the game, we had to play it on easy mode, and it was just bad. I never even played the Special Forces section. Maybe it's something I'll go back to since I haven't played it in years, but yeah, definitely a D game. It's not terrible like Umbrella Corps. To me, I had some fun with it, but not enough to put it any higher than D, I'm afraid. Resident Evil 0 is a difficult one. It really is, because Resident Evil 0, I think, came out at the time soon after Resident Evil 1, I think, the remake. And now that you think about it, now that I've played it, there were a few steps back. A few things I didn't like about the game. One in particular was what was it? The no boxes. No boxes in a Resident Evil game made inventory management a pain in my ass. It really did. It really made the game a pain in my ass when it came to inventory management. The missing of boxes was just no. It was just absolutely no. And the partner, whereas not as bad as Resident Evil 5, it can be a hindrance sometimes, but I don't think it's as bad as, say, Resident Evil 5 or 6. I enjoyed what I played, and I think it was great to have a backstory on Rebecca Chambers and how she got to the mansion, so I don't think it's a terrible game. I think there are just some gameplay aspects that I didn't enjoy. So I think I'm going to put it in a C category, and with that we have now fulfilled our rule that every tier now has a game at least in it. Resident Evil 3 Remake. Oh boy. Now I didn't play the original Resident Evil 3, but the version I played of Resident Evil 3 was more than good enough for me. But having watched, when you compare the original Resident Evil 3 and like Resident Evil 3 Remake, there is a lot of stuff that is cut or different about it that is a bit odd to me. Like, they took away the choice aspect. There's only one ending. And a lot of the various paths you could take, they're all out. A lot of the game was cut, and Nemesis is nowhere near as menacing as he could be. He could have been so menacing. Tyrant in Resident Evil 2 Remake was more menacing than Nemesis in 3 Remake. It's odd, because in 2 Original, Tyrant is mostly scripted. There are a few instances where he's unscripted and he'll just come after you. 3 Original Nemesis, oh my god, Nemesis will pop out of anywhere depending on what you do. He's heavily scripted in this one, but I did enjoy what I played. Again, the RE engine was sensational, but a lot of it from the original was cut. So that's the reason. If I was to tier Resident Evil 3, I'd put Resident Evil 3 original in A and Resident Evil 3 remake in B. Honestly, I really would. It's still a fantastic game you should check out, but I think if you had the choice, I would say play the original. I think the original is that much better, actually by quite a wide margin if I'm completely honest. Resident Evil 1 OG is really dependent on what version of the game you played, I think. Because from what I've heard, there are two different versions of Resident Evil, the OG, the original game. There is an original version and there's a director's cut version. Now I believe I played both. So, it's tough. I played both. I think the original is better. I don't think it's as tough as I thought. I think it's a B, personally. I think it's a B, and the only reason it's a B is because the director's cut is part of it, and that does make it worse. The music is worse, apparently. But a lot of people would say, well, am I basing it on the writing? No, I'm not basing it on the writing, because the writing is, whereas it's completely cheesy and corny, that's the point. That's what gave original OG its charm. So, I think OG has a charm to it. But, like I said, games like Resident Evil the remake, Resident Evil 2, and Resident Evil 4 all expanded and made it better. And like I said, with remake is so much better than 1. So I think that's why I'm putting 1 OG in B, because I believe the remake was much better in a lot of ways. Resident Evil Revelations 2, I didn't like it before my second playthrough, and I still don't like it. It's probably my least favorite Resident Evil game, but it's not because it's bad, to be honest. It's not because it's bad. It's a C game. It's a C game. It's not a D or E game. It's not. The partner AI is still meh. I liked the story. I did love the story, actually, to be fair, and I think that's part of the way I get to see as well, is because I actually loved the story in it, but the gameplay it just didn't feel right to me for some reason. I really just didn't enjoy the gameplay of Resident Evil Revelations 2. But is it a bad game by any stretch? No, it's not. It's not a bad game at all. Resident Evil Code Veronica, I adore it. I absolutely adore it. A tier, maybe even an S tier. I'm conflicted because I loved this game so much. In fact, I think I might just put it in the S tier. I'm so conflicted right now with Revelations, Code Veronica rather. I'm so conflicted because I adore this game. But I think because it's the original Resident Evil 3. So I think, considering I would have put Nemesis in A tier, maybe that's where Code Veronica should go. But I'm so torn because I absolutely love the fact that Claire and Chris were in this game together. It's the only time they've ever been in the game together, and they made it work. Oh, I'm so tempted. I'm so tempted. I want to put it in S so bad. I really do. I love it. I've got to. I can't resist. I've got to put Code Veronica in S, dude. I love it. I love the game. I'd go back to it again and again if I had a chance to. Oh, I love that game so much. It's so good. And it's not even because, the enemies are a pushover if you just knife them in the legs. It's just the fact that it has Chris and Claire in the same game. They interact, they meet, and I love the Redfield siblings. I just love them. I love them as characters. I've got to put it in S. I can't not. I can't resist. I'm sorry. I would put it if I was to go any lower, I'd only go lower than an A. It's not a B or lower game. It's not. It's not. But I can't. I'm gonna put it here at a Resident Evil 4. It doesn't really matter. But I would say Code Veronica was better than Resident Evil 4, but only by slightly. But it's for different reasons. Still, that doesn't mean Resident Evil 4 is worse than Code Veronica. It's just oh, I love that game so much. I really do. I've got to put it in S tier no matter what anyway. But yeah, I couldn't resist. I had to. I just adore that game. Resident Evil Survivor I didn't play, so it goes here. Resident Evil Darkside Chronicles, I really enjoyed it, actually. The retellings of Resident Evil 2 was great to experience, but what Darkside Chronicles did really well for me, and why it gets a B, is because it is good retellings of the original story for Resident Evil 2. It also features the story of Code Veronica as well, so that's an added incentive. And yeah, I think Darkside Chronicles, it's not an A-tier game, and the only reason it's not is because it's a very simple game, being a light gun shooter like Time Crisis, but I love Time Crisis. So, the faithful recreation of 2 and Code Veronica is really nice, but the real kicker is the new story they have, where Leon and Krauser are on their mission in, I can't remember, was it Africa or Spain? I think it might have been Spain, and it tells that story as well. So, I think, I'm tempted to put it in A, but the only reason I don't is because it's a simple game. It's not a classic Resident Evil game by any means, but I think I'm gonna put it in B because I think it would be unfair to put it any higher than that because the gameplay is very simple. You know, it's not a gruelingly hard game like, you know, Resident Evil 2 B, for example, you know, the original game. So I think I will put it as a B, simply because the gameplay wasn't as hard. But for me, when I played with Tom Lady Games, we did a co-op play for our channel years ago, and I really enjoyed it. So I would definitely put Darkside Chronicles in B for sure. RE7 is simply an A-tier game, and it's just so incredible to say that now, considering that when the trailers first came out with this game, I just didn't feel it, you know, with RE7. I wasn't digging the whole first-person view, the push for VR. None of it just hit the right notes for me when I initially saw the trailers, and it didn't get me hyped as say Resident Evil 5 or 6 did. But then I did my playthrough earlier this year, and my opinion completely changed. Resident Evil 7 is very similar to Resident Evil 4 in the way it changed the series and still worked as a Resident Evil game. The atmosphere is incredible when you compare it to something like 5 or 6. You know, it is leaps and bounds better than those two games. But the reason it's only an A and not an S is because the characters Ethan and Weir Winters and even some of the Baker family didn't stick out to me. They didn't have a stick out moment like Claire or Leon or Sherry or Chris would. You know, I think Resident Evil 7 would be less memorable than RE2, Code Veronica or 4. And I think that's why Resident Evil 7 is A tier. But I will say this right now, if you haven't played the game and you're unsure about it, which is right to do, because I was, play it, and your mind will change instantly. Resident Evil 7 did such a good job of changing my entire opinion about it. It's an A-tier game without a doubt. And it kind of makes me excited for RE8, because obviously Ethan and Chris are in RE8 from the trailer, and I believe Chris shoots Mia in it as well, so they're back. So Ethan and Mia Winters are back in RE8, despite me not really having anything to remember them by. So it'd be interesting to see how RE8 does that. Maybe we'll go back to this one day when RE8 is added, and I'll give my opinion on that at the time. Resident Evil 2 is difficult. The remake from 2019. It's not as good as the original. It's not. I would definitely put it like here. If I was to do that, you know, if I was to order them in order here, I would definitely put it as like right next to the RE remake. But it just, the gameplay is fantastic. The graphics are the best. The RE engine, like I said, I've always said the RE engine is on par with Naughty Dog in terms of graphical performance. The RE engine and the graphical engine of this game is insane. The gameplay is almost perfect. But the story, much like RE3, the story is cut a little bit and changed a little bit. There's a little bits that are different. It's not as cut as RE3 though. It's not. The thing that kind of at me was the fact that the scenarios A and B for both Leon and Claire play almost exactly the same, and that wasn't the case in the original. Yes, Claire and Leon B scenarios played out the same with little differences like Claire meeting Sherry and Leon meeting Ada, but you got, for the most part, 4 totally different experiences with the A and B scenarios from both characters. Both A and B scenarios for Leon and Claire almost play exactly the same, but the difference is really subtle. You know, Leon A plays almost exactly the same as Leon B, you just start in a different place and get the actual ending of the game. So RE2 Remake is fantastic in almost every aspect except the scenarios and how they work. And obviously they had the additions of the DLC with the Total Survivor and the Fourth Survivor, which Resident Evil 2 Original had. So with all that in mind, just the scenarios really let it down for me a little bit. It would have been S had the scenarios worked the same way as RE2's original did. But that's what misses out on an S there. And that's another reason why RE3 is a B. You know, a lot of the story was cut and there's no replayability, apart to play on harder difficulty levels. The Mercenaries mode is out completely. They've never added it. So yeah, a lot of RE3 had a lot more cut corners than RE2 did. Even though the A and B scenarios for the RE2 were the same mostly, then RE2 had less cut than RE3 did. RE3 cut a lot of corners compared to RE2. So RE2 is definitely better than RE3 in the remake terms, that is. And finally, Umbrella Chronicles. I don't really need to dwell on this too much because it's the same comments that I had with Darkside Chronicles. And it even has a part after you've played all the Resident Evil 0 through 3, then you play a Wesker section, and then after completing all of that you actually unlock a special mission that tells you how Leon it tells you about the mission in Europe that Chris and Jill were on, and that was great. I never unlocked that, but I saw it from DSP playing it, and that was pretty cool to experience. So that's it for my tier list of the Resident Evil series. I'm pretty happy with that. We got a game in each tier, so that's a requirement fulfilled. Even though I did say that we don't, if nothing goes in E, then it would have been no big deal. It just would have proved that the series had some really good games. And to be fair, the Resident Evil series has had some really good games. It's had a couple of stinkers like Umbrella Corps. I don't even know why Umbrella Corps is here. It's not really a Resident Evil game. It's a game with Resident Evil characters. It's not really a Resident Evil game as such. At least that's the thing. At least Operation Raccoon City was a Resident Evil game. You know, it's like it even had Resident Evil 2 characters in it. So at least this felt a little bit more like Resident Evil 2. Umbrella Corps isn't even a Resident Evil game. It's just a game with Resident Evil characters in it. But this at least had the setting of Raccoon City, and it told you a side story to the original you knew, and that's why it won out and got an D for me. I'm pretty happy with that. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Send me your own tiers on Twitter or my Discord server. Both links down in the description. And also write down in the comments or even in the server or my Twitter. Let me know what tiers you would like me to do. If you'd like me to do some tiers on say Pokemon or Dragon Ball, or with Dragon Ball it might be a little bit difficult because I haven't really watched a lot of Dragon Ball, but I do know Dragon Ball FighterZ has taught me a lot about Dragon Ball, and I do want to play Dragon Ball Xenoverse and Dragon Ball Kakarot, and that might teach me a lot. So maybe we'll do Dragon Ball after that. Maybe when I'm up on the story, we'll do some Dragon Ball tiers. But yeah, write down in the comments section, or on my server, or on Twitter, what tiers you would like me to do. If you would like me to check out a tier that you have made of, say, Resident Evil, or anything like that, send that to me. That'd be pretty cool, and I'll rank the games you've put on there. But yeah, this might turn into a bit of a series, because I have a lot I could possibly do. I might even do another one based on Resident Evil. I might do a characters tier, actually. I'll see if I can find one, and maybe we'll do a characters tier now that we've done this. We can delve into the actual individual characters themselves and do that tier as well. So yeah, episode 1 of Tier Maker, the Resident Evil game series. There it is. Feel free to put your tiers in the comments section. Let me know what you rank as the Resident Evil game series, and send those to me. It'd be very interesting to find out what you guys think about this tier of games. And there's mine. So that's it for the first episode of Tier Maker, the Resident Evil game series. Hope you guys enjoyed it. You guys know what to do. Follow, subscribe, and all that good stuff. Ring the bell for video notifications. Social media is down in the description of every video I upload. And I will see you next time on Tier Maker, the second episode. Peace out, stay safe, and as always, stay awesome. This is Vinkel's signing off.